Hello, Joe, and welcome to your diary entry. Last time we saw each other was together, which was amazing. My cup is completely full. But you also had that time reconnecting with friends in Singapore and then returning to a house full of hopefully furniture and a passport somewhere. Update us. What's been happening in the last week?
Well, to put everyone's minds at ease, yes, we have a passport and a work pass have been returned to the house, as well as the contents of a 40-foot shipping container. So while I assumed I would not be particularly popular as the girls and I left the country as our stuff all arrived, my husband's done a pretty good job at getting started on things. But I have found that I'm still getting into bed at for the last 3 nights, I've got into bed at about 11:30, just trying to find homes for everything and sort stuff out. And everything is filthy, like
Oh,
gross, like just, I think, it was dusty and muddy and things when it went into the truck. As you may recall, the truck getting stuck in mud. But it's then sort of festered in that for 6 to 8 weeks while getting here. So it's fine. I've been just doing about 5 loads of washing a day as I pull everything out of bags and things, which I was kind of hoping I wouldn't need to do, but I definitely do. It's a bit pongy. And as we were moving our washing machine, an enormous amount of mouse poo fell out of it. So that was disgusting. That's
oh
been
wow.
now carted to another country. Ugh. But apart from that, it has been completely transformational as far as just like, oh my gosh, it feels like home and all those things we talked about. Like I
I
slept in
can
my own
see,
bed. It was
yeah.
just so nice.
Well, I
So
can see the
nice.
bed behind you and also some artwork, which
Yes.
we talked a lot about last week in terms of that being something that really makes home feel home. And it feels familiar as well because we've done recordings with you with that piece of art behind you. So it's really nice to see you back, old friend. Welcome.
That's so funny when people get invested in like the different like rooms in my house at home, and so people that are watching this can, you know, do that as well in the new location. Yeah, so it is feeling really good. I'm a bit like zonked, sort of doing all of the stuff that happens as life continues during the day, and then I feel like I'm this nocturnal unpacking beast in the evenings. So, um, yeah, it's so good though. I'm super chuffed, and our visitors are all going to start arriving shortly. I think we've got our first visitors arrive in like 3 weeks, so I'm very excited that there is beds for them to sleep in. I'm also very happy that my husband's passport has arrived because he has to go to Vietnam for work next week. So that is also awesome. So yes, very happy. I just, it's, yeah, I'm now impatient and just want everything to be like in its place, which is pointless. I've just sort
That
of
doesn't
said,
sound like you, Joe. We haven't covered that theme at all during this
I
period.
know, I know. The
You just brought up something there, though, that I think a lot of people listening to this will relate to, which is visitors when you relocate and the the different way that people handle or cope with visitors. I think like you when you do relocate somewhere else and you with other people doing that and hosting visitors, there's so many different ways that people choose to manage visitors with love. I like there is obviously a lot of love that people pay money to come and see you and spend their time with you, but it can also come with its challenges. So I'd love to hear how you handle it.
Oh, well, look, I grew up in a household that was like a halfway house. It was like a revolving door of visitors and long term people staying, not so much when I was a kid, but definitely in my sort of well, during high school, but also post high school years, in that my father did fly in, fly out work in mines and construction companies and things around the world. And so my mum was sort of at home for 6 weeks at a time by herself, and then he'd come home for a couple of weeks. And so our house just sort of acquired huge amounts of people. So, like, friends of mine from high school who went to go and stay for a couple of weeks. Like one friend ended up living with my parents for like 4 years and did his apprenticeship in our town. And another friend whose boyfriend at uni was studying medicine, he just wanted to have a break, and we lived near a ski town, and so he took a semester off and went and became a ski instructor, and he lived with my mum. And so while it seemed a bit obscure when people would say, oh, where do you live, and he's like, oh, with my girlfriend's friend's parents. It was just so normal for us to have lots of people coming and going. So I love visitors. My husband finds it very challenging, my love for visitors, because my skills are really, really honed in on inviting people. And then I just don't think any more about it. I don't think about how we're going to feed them, where they're all going to sleep, what we're going to do to entertain them. I just then, that's when his skill set kicks in and just makes all of that happen. So I love it. He is slightly freaking out that our second lot of visitors are my parents, who are coming for a month. And at that time, also one of my girlfriends from university is going to come for one of those weeks as well. So at least here we have the space for everyone, where everyone was on mattresses and the couch and the floor and things when we were in Singapore. But my husband's just more like, oh God, there's just going to be so many people everywhere. And he comes home from work and is zonked, and then he feels like he's got to entertain people sitting there
Yeah.
having dinner. So I think we are polar opposites on how we like dealing with visitors. But again, my parents are not the type that are like, oh, we'll just come for a few days and then go and get a hotel. They're like, nah, we are with you for a full month.
Yeah. We we have that with my parents as well. They love to come and stay, and I love it too. I won't speak on behalf of my husband, but my in-laws, they really want their own space, so they always are in a hotel, and it's much more of a visiting and arranging catch-ups, whereas mum and dad are right in it. And I've had that with friends as well. Like, some have stayed with us, others prefer to have their own space. And it's a conversation I've had with friends recently about how to best make some of these trips work. And my little brother lives in another country as well, not Australia. He's over in America, and I like to go and visit him once a year. And I think we've landed on the perfect way of doing it now, which is I get an Airbnb and then we go away somewhere else altogether. And so we all have some holiday together, as opposed to, it can be quite disruptive having people sort of messing with your routine, especially if you've got kids or if you've got a really challenging job. Like, I know with my husband's work, we don't really see him Monday to Thursday. He's really in work zone, and so hosting people in that time is just not really an option. But if you all go away together, that can be something really fun to do. Do you do that at all with your guests, or it's really very much you've booked your flights, it's over to you?
Oh, I've sort of forgotten actually. Now that you're actually saying that, I'm just thinking, oh God, what have I done? Because you're right, life continues for us and we're not on holidays. And because, you live somewhere desirable or that's en route somewhere, and so people use you as their stopover, they're on holidays. So they're wanting to go out to dinner and have drinks midweek or go away for the weekend. And you're like, oh, hang on. But the kids have got school and I'm working. Like, yes, you can use our place. Oh dear, I haven't thought this through.
Wow. Well, you know what? I have, Joe, and that's where our skills come together so beautifully. So, like, I absolutely love having guests too, and I grew up in a similar environment to you. We didn't leave the country, but we moved to another state, and we had a lot of friends coming to visit us there, and it was very much an open door. Like, anyone was welcome to stay. We used to have, my dad worked for a not-for-profit, and so budgets are tight in that environment. So we'd often have his interstate colleagues staying with us. So it was like literally everyone is welcome. And I love having visitors. And I also really love making people love Singapore. Like, I feel like that's my goal when people come. So I have, like, my sister-in-law messaged me with a friend of a friend from her school who's coming to Singapore. I've got this document that I send out. I'm like, give her my number, like, let me share it. So I get really, really into it. And I know you would have had something like that, like a bit of a document that you can share with people. And I think anyone who's lived sort of the expat life or a place where people love to come, you have your own way of sharing that knowledge. Have you started that for Bangkok?
Of course. It's that question. I started that before I even left Australia. Yes, I always had like in Singapore I was the same, and I had a note in my phone that I would just copy and paste and text to anyone that wanted it. But I have taken it to a much more sophisticated level now, as listeners will appreciate my obsession with Google Maps. I am a passionate pin dropper on recommendations and things that I do. And you can make these incredible lists in your Google Maps and you can share the list with people so that it actually just pops up in their Google Map when they land. Life hack.
So good. I think we're going to ask you to share that in the chat for our Alora members.
I feel that it also can cause major amounts of judgment. I've had to break. Mine isn't just a big generic list. Everyone thinks that I'm a psychopath whenever I open up my Google Maps in front of people. They're like, what? There is like pins dropped on everything, but I've got about 18 lists even for Bangkok already. So I'm like, I can share. You want brunch? I got Bangkok brunch. Here you go. You want rooftop bars? Right, here you go. I haven't even been to half these places, but there've been recommendations of things for me. So I can't, unless you want 18 lists of things there. I feel that it needs to be more nuanced. If you are listening to this and you want, please reach out.
DM Joe for one of 18 lists, and
Yes,
by the time you
yes.
DM, expect it to be 50.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
I love that. I love that you work like that. And it's a great idea. You like the Google Maps is a good way of doing it. Mine's you'll be unsurprised. Old CTO over here is working in a Word doc in Dropbox. So
I thought you were going to say that you had written on a piece of paper and you checked a photo of the list to people.
all right, come on, give me some credit. um, okay, well that's exciting. That's on the horizon. What about in terms of the feeling now that you've got to like we talked last week about how things aren't what's important to you. It's the people around you, but you live with people who the things are important to. And is there a feeling of a bit more settled within your family now that you've got your things with you?
Yes and no. I think yes, it will when it's all tidied up. There's literally like stuff everywhere, and my eldest has been homesick from school this week, and so she's miserable. And so yes, it will in the future. I don't think it's sort of really. Well, in saying that, they're pretty chuffed that all their toys have arrived, and like sent carpets over, so there's like lying on the thing. But I think just that concept of being in your own bed with your own linen and those sorts of things is nice as well. I think what has been super interesting, just after having the weekend in Singapore and catching up with lots of people, it was super interesting. You will find this. It was so good seeing you in person, obviously, because we haven't done that for 18 months. But I got to catch up with lots of people, and there is an enormous sort of turnover of people going at the moment. So there's a lot of my friends that I saw over the weekend are finishing up and that are moving either home or on to the next relocation, and so there's a lot of upheaval and things. And so while I stayed one night with some friends who live in the building next door to where we lived, and so I literally woke up and just went about my day. I went to the same train station. I knew what bus to catch later on. Like I just walked straight out, and it was like muscle memory. I was like, oh, this is my hood. I know how to do this. But by the time we got on the plane, I was like, see ya. Like, I love Singapore, but I sort of was a bit nervous that I'd be like, oh, why don't we live here? I want to come back. I was like, I super appreciate this. I love that I love it here and that I can have that familiarity. And there are people that will be here like there long term, that I will always have friends there. But because there's such a huge transition, I got back on the plane and I'm like, I'm pumped to get home. And when I said home, my head was like, oh, Bangkok, like I'm going
Yeah.
home. To the point where I was texting a girlfriend who's in Australia and I said, look, I'm just in the plane about to fly home. I'll ring you tomorrow. And she said, what are you coming home for already? Like, what are you coming back? And I was like, oh, no, I've
Yeah.
only been here for 6 weeks. I'm like, not coming home. Sorry, I meant Bangkok. And she was like, geez, that didn't take you long.
Yeah, and that can be really confronting for friends back home, passport home. I've done that before as well and been really like, what? This isn't your home anymore? Like you're never coming back? But I also love that you make that connection so quickly because I know that's not the case for everyone. And I think I still probably think of Australia as home and I've been here 5 years. And I'm not saying that you don't think like that about Australia, but the fact that you're able to put those roots down so quickly and feel that sense of place in a new place is great, and also not the experience everyone is going to have.
Yeah, and you know, the first time that I sort of noticed it was after we left Singapore. I went back about 6 months later, and I had was feeling so unsettled at home, Australia home, that I landed at Changi Airport in Singapore and like started crying. I was like, "No, I'm home. Like I feel like home. This is so familiar." And you know, I got out and was just like, "Oh, the efficiencies of just going straight through an airport that works and all of these things." And while I felt that like excitement about rolling in there last week, and actually it was interesting, I took the kids and it was the first time they'd been back since we left. And actually the younger one was like, can this still count as my home? And I was like, oh, it's an interesting concept. I was like, it can be wherever you want. You can have lots of homes around the world, but yes, you did live here for a chunk of time. So yeah, she's so funny. I feel like she like listens to this in some capacity, which obviously she doesn't, but that she quite often will throw things into the conversation that I'm like, she's quite the profound thinker as far as
Yeah.
relocation and that place-based stuff. So
Well, you
yeah,
would be talking about it in the real world, I'm sure. I don't feel like you're saving all this up for when we record it, so she might be picking up on some of that.
I'm in a glass case of emotion the rest of the time. This is my one outlet for half an hour a week where I get to.
Yeah, that's why we started this. We talked a lot about that sense of home last week, so I don't want to spend too much time sort of going over it again now, but I think that idea that you brought up just before around people in transition and living in a community where it is transient, because I'm obviously based in Singapore, I'm experiencing it at the moment too, so it's not just your friendship group. Yes, we have different friendship groups, everyone.
We
I
do have one mutual friend though that is.
I think we have more than one. Okay, let's we don't have to completely isolate ourselves from each other. But I've also got some friends going that I didn't think were going to go, and it's really it's it's taken me by surprise. Even though living somewhere like this, you expect it, and so I think it's a funny thing to live with if that is your experience. I know for people who might move to, a regional town, it's very different, less transient. But I just wonder, being back in that environment, talking to people, moving on, what was your sense of where other people are at with that experience?
I guess it was quite varied. There was some that are pretty seasoned at this, that, they're ready to roll. Like one couple, they haven't told their kids they're going yet, so I had to prep mine to be like, don't mention it. Their kids are smaller than ours, but they are so organised, like so organised. I said, oh, so, have you done your recce yet? Oh, no, we're going next week. Okay, so you're looking at schools. I think, no, booked in. I found an apartment. Like where it's their visas are done. It's just we're just got to go. They're ready to roll. And I was like, what? And then you've got some other ones that are complete polar opposite, that are like a hot mess, that are like, we're going in 3 weeks. I like haven't even told my landlord yet. Like all over the shop. So I think I couldn't tell you how there definitely wasn't a common sort of thread in the big sort of ways that people were dealing with it. But there was, I guess, a sense, because I went to a farewell party on Saturday night, so that was a big one. So this was my one of my best mates in Singapore is moving to the UK. They had been in Singapore for 5 years, and it is big news for them, but something they've always talked about and always wanted to do. So it's not like that shock whatsoever. But I think it's that realization that for the people that are left in the place, like Singapore, that there is that sort of loss, or you notice the move. But for people that have either already moved and the friendship has continued and you have stayed close friends in a virtual way, it makes zero difference to me that she's moving from Singapore to England. Like
Yeah.
I had already moved. I've moved to two countries in the time since I saw her last. And so, you
You're
know,
just like, bonus, I can come and go to your farewell party because I'm back in Southeast Asia.
well, I was thinking more bonus that there's yet another bed for me in England if I ever get there again. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but that whole thing going back to what you were saying with your brother and your holidaying and things, this girlfriends were like, well, why don't we set a goal for next summer? Let's go and meet somewhere and get a house for a week that's
Yeah.
in neither of the countries that we live in.
Yeah,
And I was
we
like,
talk about that a lot. We our closest family friends here. We moved at pretty much exactly the same time, and they have always been likely to move before us because they're on a shorter term contract, and so the UK is home for them as well. But we have always talked about, well, no, since when we realized we were really good friends and this was a lifer, we talk about, okay, great. Well, these are all the amazing holidays that we're going to have in the future, and what we can, like, how do we keep replicating this awesome lifestyle that we've had together here in Singapore when we're literally on opposite sides of the world from each other?
and I think what's interesting is watching the kids witness that as well. So this was the first glimpse that my girls got to see that friendships can outlast distance. So they pretty much like, we went for the party, but went earlier so that I could do some work things. And then the kids were like, well, you can't go if we're not coming. So I took them. And half the week was just spent organising their social lives. Like they went to sleepovers at every different night, catching up with different groups of friends. Every time I would drop each of them off, the reuniting was jumping on each other, hugging things. These kids haven't seen each other in person in like 2 years, and it just did not skip a beat. And so, I would then leave and then get sort of photo and video updates throughout each of the evenings from the parents that they were staying with. And we're like, did you guys even leave? Like, what is
So
going on? Look
nice.
at these
Yeah.
kids. And so, for my kids, for the first time ever, to be able to see this is what long distance friendships look
Yeah.
like. And it I could see it clicking for them with how I've got very good friends that don't live in our country town, that live in all over Australia, all over the world, and that I talk about them with like the deepest sort of love that I have for them, like I do with the ones that we see in person on
Yeah.
and regularly. And I think that just was something really fundamental that clicked for them. They were like, oh yeah, this is cool. And I was like, you guys are getting to do this from such a young age. You're going to have friends all over the world. Imagine when you're an adult that you literally can just burn around the world and, catch up with friends that you've made in all these different places, because those friendships are the ones that'll stick around. So it was really, really nice. It was really
Yeah.
nice.
And there's a real like personal resilience, I think, in that as well, to be confident that those friendships are strong enough to last time and distance, and
Mm,
to feel how good it does feel when you pick up with someone you haven't seen in a long time.
mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
100%.
That's a great lesson to learn early.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, look, it's been a really nice week. It's been a really nice week. I think it is going to be a bit more real now, like moving forward. I'm going to be intrigued to sort of see how the headspace plays out over the next couple of weeks, because you sort of are in this bit of a limbo thing where you're like, I can hang out in this sort of place of obscurity almost, because well, our stuff hasn't arrived, so I don't have to do that yet. Or you sort of kick the can down the road a bit with things. And so, apart from like getting my paintings hung up and getting like the rest of the stuff off the floor, and maybe buying some shelving so that things are not just jammed in the cupboard like they currently are in plastic bags, I think we're going to be kicking into reality zone
Yeah.
soon, which I think will be just yet another sort of interesting phase. And like, I feel
Yeah.
funny even saying that because we haven't talked about what does next week look like. It's been so retrospective of
Yeah.
just like chunks of time, but this is the first time that I sort of feel like, oh, okay, I've got the brain power and the capacity, but also this impending thing coming at me that like reality is kicking in
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to being along for the journey.
Can
Um,
I just throw something very weird in though that I'm finding a little challenging to grapple with is I've been here for in Bangkok for 6 weeks today. And 6 weeks on one hand feels like a flash in the pan, like that's such a short period of time. And I think about what I've already done and what we've already sort of done as a family, but also just, what I've established for myself personally and stuff in those 6 weeks to, oh my gosh, is that all? Like it feels forever at the same time. Like I can't, it feels like we left Oz 6 months ago.
yeah.
Like months and months and months. If I think about home and what the daily routine was looking like, that I just feels like a past life already. But then when
Yeah.
I say it out loud that like we've only been here for 6 weeks, I'm like, that is crazy.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, that's a funny thing with time and reflecting on time because you've also, like, back when you were in Australia, your days were predictable and you were in that routine, and you haven't had any of that for the last 6 weeks. So everything has been new and exciting. And of course, that's going to feel bigger. But I think it is really interesting moving into this next stage, how that's going to feel. And yeah, it probably will feel longer, I imagine, because it's back to reality.
Well, to be fair, I hope so. I don't want this to fly by. I find that this is like, I don't know if it's like a middle age thing where you're like, oh gosh, my life is flashing before my eyes. But like, I want it to slow down. I want it to feel like, you know, cadence and rhythm and all of those things that goes with daily life. Like, I do want it to feel like that. But when you're constantly doing new things and in a big place like this, like I don't even have to like go to other parts of Thailand, let alone Asia or go and visit friends in England. Like Bangkok alone, there is enough to keep me going for
Yeah.
years. Like this is what's crazy. So I hate to say it, I don't think these weeks are going to slow down anytime soon.
Well, we appreciate being brought along on the journey, and can't wait for next week's entry.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Joe.